everyone, my name is Emma. I like musicals, Disney and all things cozy. Thank you so much for clicking on my video today. If you enjoy watching, it would mean a lot if you could give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. So I wanted to make a video that was a bit different from the other two videos that I've been uploading recently. I had a personal goal this year of reading 12 books because as a child I really enjoyed reading, and me and my mum would go to the library several times a week at one point, and I would borrow stacks and stacks of books and just fly through them. For a few years now, I've sort of been too busy to read, or I haven't prioritised it as much, and I really wanted to change that this year. I've gotten into BookTube recently and seen other creators and what they're recommending, and some of these books might be books that you guys have already read. There's so many BookTube channels out there that you can find on YouTube that, you know, read like 30 books in a month or like something crazy. I'm not one of those people. I thoroughly enjoy taking my time with a book. So I will be talking about all the different books that I've been reading so far this year, and then later in the year I'm planning to do an update video and just see how I'm getting on with the goal. So yeah, 12 books this year, very achievable. So this first book that I read this year was called On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher. So this book is about Evie Snow, who passes away surrounded by her grandchildren. When she gets to this kind of heaven, she finds out that her soul is too heavy to pass on to the other side because she has 3 secrets in her life that has been weighing her down for nearly 50 years. So she finds herself trapped in her 27-year-old body. The concept for this book, I think, is very unique. It's a beautiful story, and I actually think as well that you think the book will go a certain way and then it doesn't. I was very happy with the ending of it, but I will say that first 50, 60 pages, you have a sort of idea what you think are going to happen, and that didn't happen. So for that reason, I like it even more. I actually really enjoyed it. I would give it maybe, what would I give it? I think I'd give it 4 out of 5 stars, actually. Next on my list, I read Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton. Tom Felton played Draco Malfoy in the Harry Potter series. And I read this I picked up the audiobook for it. Like getting it as an audiobook, especially if the author has narrated the biography themselves. I think it gives sort of a unique perspective of hearing it the way that that person wrote it. And in this book, he talks about his days on the Harry Potter set, how it was like being cast as Draco Malfoy, all the boxes of bleach had to get through to play this part, and his hair falling out. But I was very pleasantly surprised by this book, actually. Also details like humble beginnings. He talks a lot about his family, growing up in England. He talks also a lot about his career before Harry Potter, because he actually had a couple of movie roles before that. But what surprised me the most, that I didn't know about Tom Felton, that he struggled with substance abuse. He's detailing this a lot in the book, and I thought that was really brave of him. And I feel like it's so easy for an actor to just write a book about the career and have it be a bit of a cash grab. And I could tell that he's written it, if that makes sense. Like it came from here. He didn't have to open up about any of those things, but he chose to do it anyway, which is very admirable of him to do. And I think it's going to help a lot of people. I'd give this book 4.5 stars. I finished it in 2 days. I couldn't put it down. I thought it was really good. The next book on my list, I feel like, you guys, that everyone but me has read this book. A book that I'd been wanting to read for ages because I saw the movie, the Greta Gerwig version of this movie, a couple of years ago, and I didn't really expect to like it, but after starting to watch series like Bridgerton, I've gotten really into Regency, romantic stuff, Victorian England, that kind of vibe. I've gotten really into it. So I picked up Little Women. If you don't know what Little Women is about, it's about these 4 sisters, Jo, Beth, Meg, and Amy. There's not many books that I've read that is purely about sisters. It's about, you follow them from when they're little girls into young women, and the reason why I think it remains a classic is because beyond just being about these sisters, it's about women being able to make their own choices and were sort of forced to conform, and they didn't have many choices to perhaps, pursue writing. Like Jo, she wants to be an author, or Amy, she wants to be an artist. And really, back in those days, the author, Louisa May Alcott, was actually one of the first feminists. That she was the first woman to register to vote in Concord when women were given school, tax and bond suffrage in Massachusetts in 1879. Someone like Jo and Meg, it's very easy, I think, now for a modern woman to identify with Jo, who wants to become an author, and we take it for granted that women can make their own choices and pave their own career paths, and it's very idealised in our culture, I think, hustle culture, and being able to an independent career, you should have a house. It's very much pressure on women. And back in those days, you were supposed to just be a wife. If you were well-read, you were considered a bit of a threat. Meg, who is the complete opposite to Jo, she wants to have nice things. She wants to be a wife. She wants luxury. She wants money.
Be bored of him in 2 years, and we will be interesting forever. Just because my dreams are different than yours doesn't mean they're unimportant.
There's nothing wrong with wanting nice things. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a stay-at-home mother. Women have choice. And what I really, really love about this book is the friendship between Jo and Laurie. I love especially, I think, the first part of the book, more so than the second part of the book, because I think it's captured this childlike wonder of growing up, but also sisterhood and this friendship that they have with Laurie. It's so wholesome, and I can just see myself picking this book up at Christmas again and starting to read it. I am absolutely over the moon by it. I'm going to read you the synopsis of it anyway. A story of family growing up in a female strength, Little Women has been loved by readers for generations. The adventures of the 4 March sisters, Meg, the eldest, on the brink of love, Jo, who longs to be a writer above all else, Beth, who always puts others first, and Amy, the youngest and most precious, who experience adversity, hardship, joy and tragedy on their path to womanhood and have become some of the American fiction's most beloved characters. Highly recommend, easily a 5 stars. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely one of the best books that I've ever read. The next book that I read was the book Part of My World by Jodi Benson. The full title is Part of My World, What I've Learned from the Little Mermaid About Love, Faith and Finding My Voice. So this book was written by Carol Traver and Jodi Benson. So Jodi Benson played the original voice of Ariel from The Little Mermaid, and I actually made a video about the new live action Little Mermaid that I'll link on screen and in the description, so if you want to check that out, you can. The autobiography about Jodi Benson, and I had to pick it up because I love Disney and Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, and I thought there's going to be some stories about them in the book. I have to say, I did not enjoy this book as much as I thought I would, and that makes me kind of sad. I had the audiobook, and I really enjoyed hearing her really nice Disney princess voice in my ears at all times. That was a good perk. I really enjoyed all the stories she was telling about how she trained to be an actress and how she went to university. This story is kind of very heavily focused, I think, on the love story between her and her husband and how they met and how their children came to be, and I thought that was very nice. It almost had a bit of a theme. The book is also heavily about Jodi Benson's faith, her Christianity. She talks a lot about God and how he's shaped her life. It's her book and she can write whatever she wants in it. But for me personally, her faith was just so heavily featured in every single chapter, and I thought it got a bit repetitive, and again, it's her story to tell. There was just parts of it that weren't the best written. It's worth a read if you're a Disney fan. At the same time, wouldn't recommend it necessarily unless you're very interested in finding out about behind the scenes Disney stuff. And for that reason, I'm so sad. I kind of feel like I have to give it 3 stars, maybe even 2.5. So my next book, Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Faeries. It's about scholar and Cambridge professor Emily Wilde. And she wants to publish the first encyclopedia ever written about the fairies and the folk. So she goes to this village called, not sure how to pronounce it. If you guys know, let me know in the comments. She is very, very smart, a bit of a genius on the folk. I think actually for a main character, she's not very likable, which is quite interesting. Didn't really like her throughout a lot of this book. She's very unsympathetic. Her only motivation is to get what she needs, which is this encyclopedia. Where it gets interesting is her biggest rival at the university. It took me a while to get into this book. The first maybe 40 pages, I was not into it at all. Didn't really think it was for me, and I was so let down because I love fairies and I just thought it was not my vibe. I see this being something you read in the autumn time. I think it was a bit odd to read it in spring. My point is, I didn't really like it in the beginning, but then what sort of saved it for me and made me finish it in the end was the relationship between Emily and Wendell Bumblebee. I think there's a friendship there that I for sure really liked, and it was enjoyable to read. I would say though, the ending confused me a lot. Like, I know there's a book 2 coming, so I don't know if they've ended it on a cliffhanger or what. I don't want to spoil how it ends, but what I can tell you is that what happened in the very end of the book had nothing to do with the actual story, which it kind of confused me. And for that reason, like, I still feel like I'm going to pick up book 2. I think this book deserves, 3.5 stars for this. It's good, but it could be a lot better. So this book has been heavily, heavily hyped on social media. I've seen it everywhere and in every single shop I've been to. And I know it's famous for being a TikTok book. The author, Taylor Jenkins Reid, she made this book called Daisy Jones and the Six, which has been, it's been made into a TV show. But I've also heard equal hype about this book, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. I think when something is really hyped up, a lot of the times you get disappointed. I probably won't enjoy it, and I put it off for months and months. I was like, I'll just read a couple of other books. I was so wrong about this book. It is amazing. It's so good. It's about this movie star called Evelyn Hugo. So she's this South American, beautiful, captivating woman. I think they've probably taken a lot of inspiration from her with Marilyn Monroe, because she has this striking blonde hair and she's very glamorous, and she led kind of a semi-tragic life at times. It's 100% taken inspiration from that. It's a page turner, you guys. I couldn't stop reading it, and I will definitely not spoil it, but you can tell it by the title. She has 7 husbands, and it's about how she got those 7 husbands. And yeah, just please read it. Please read it. I don't want to spoil it, and I do feel like, again, I'm the only person alive who hasn't read this book, but please read it if you haven't. It's 100% a 5-star book for me. An honourable mention. So I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, how I read On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher. So this doesn't count as a book that I've technically read this year. Like, that's it for the books that I have read so far. The point is, I got this signed by the author, so I didn't actually meet her when I went there, but I found it in Waterstones and it had her signature in it, so I think she must have gone in and just kind of signed it. This book is, I'm just going to read the back of it to you. Timeless romance with a sprinkling of magic. From the outside, Lorelei is an ordinary young woman with a normal life. She loves reading, she works at the local cinema, and she adores living with her best friend, but she carries a painful burden, something she's kept hidden for years. Whenever she kisses someone on the lips, she sees how they're going to die. I actually think this is very good. And yeah, so every time she kisses someone, basically, as it said there, she sees how someone will die. I won't say anything about it other than that I really enjoyed it. I would give it maybe, a 4-star rating again. I think out of this one and On the Other Side, I think On the Other Side is a better book in hindsight, having read them both. But this is very good, and this is just like an honourable mention thing and kind of cheating because I didn't read it this year. But we're going to put it away now. I want to move on to the books that I want to read for the rest of the year. And these are the books that I want to read. So this first one, I've literally had on my bookshelf now, I think I've had this on my bookshelf for well over a year now, and I've just never gotten around to actually reading it. I think I read about maybe 20-30 pages of it, but This Much Is True by Miriam Margolyes. I absolutely adore Miriam Margolyes. I think she is so funny. She's a national treasure. She's famous from playing Professor Sprout in the Harry Potter books. Beyond that, one of the most funny things that I love to watch is when she's on the Graham Norton show. She's very, very funny, and she says things that you don't expect, an elderly woman to say.
Mamma Mia. He was very good in Mamma Mia. Did you see that?
It was a dreadful film.
I'm a big, big fan of her. And I think every single programme she's made has been very entertaining to watch. And for that reason, she has so many stories, right? I just wanted to learn about her life, and what this is the first autobiography that I'm going to be reading this year that doesn't have the audiobook to follow with it, but I do think at some point I probably will do that, because what I like about this as well is that obviously it has the pictures and, of her life. I'll read you the synopsis, or what people say. From Blackadder to Call the Midwife, from PG Tips to Harry Potter, BAFTA-winning actress Miriam Margolyes, OBE, is our favourite and naughtiest national treasure. This Much Is True is her extraordinary life story, and the Times has said, superb, a joy from start to finish. I've actually seen that Miriam has another book coming out soon. I'll put it on the screen. So I want to read this so then I can read the other one as well. The next book is just called Lost Boy. My channel is called Lost Girls Club, so you can probably tell that this is going to be something for me. I am obsessed with Peter Pan, you guys. It's been my favourite book since I was a child. Well, really, it's been my favourite movie, but I adore the book as well. I adore the book. So I actually have a copy of Peter Pan. I'll see if I can grab it. So I actually have a copy of Peter Pan. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous edition of Peter Pan. It has all of these little fairies on and little blue boats. It's absolutely stunning. This is a penguin edition. I love penguin books. They're so, so nice. But anyway, yeah, this is, and it has this gorgeous green inside of it as well. Just wanted to mention that, that I have the original one. Anyway, this book is supposed to be kind of an opposite version of Peter Pan. As someone who's seen pretty much every Peter Pan rendition there is, a great new look at the classic J.M. Barrie tale. There is one version of my story that everyone knows, and then there is the truth. Once I loved a boy called Peter Pan. Peter brought me to his island because there were no rules and no grown-ups to make us mind. He brought boys from the other place to join in the fun, but Peter's idea of fun is sharper than a pirate's sword. He wants always to be that shining sun that we all revolve around. He'll do anything to be that sun. Peter promised we would all be young and happy forever. Peter will say I'm a villain, that I wronged him, that I never was his friend. Peter lies. And that just got me so bad. I feel like I have been recommended this book in the past. I think it was written a little while ago. I'll have to check that out. It's written by Christina Henry. This just I'm so excited. It is not the first sort of rendition where I've seen people turning Peter Pan into the villain. You know, there was a TV show called Once Upon a Time that made Peter Pan the villain. I think it makes so total sense. If you've read the original book, he is a bit of a narcissistic boy and he did cut off someone's hand. I'm super excited to read this. I love everything Peter Pan, and this is going to be like the dark version of it. I can see myself curling up with a cup of tea and some biscuits on the couch and just delving into this. This is definitely, it might be the next book I read, actually, we'll see. Next up is a book that's been actually lended to me by my good friend Joanne. Joanne, if you're watching, hello. So this book is called Red, White and Royal Blue, True Love Isn't Always Diplomatic. A novel by Casey McQuiston. So I'll read you the synopsis of this as well. What happens when America's first son falls in love with the Prince of Wales? When his mother became President of the United States, Alex Claremont Diaz was promptly cast as pure millennial marketing gold for the White House. There's only one problem. Alex has a beef with an actual prince, Henry, across the pond. And when the tabloids get hold of a photo involving an Alex-Henry altercation, US-British relations take a turn for the worse. Heads of family and state and other handlers devise a plan for damage control, stage a truce between the two rivals. What at first begins as a fake, Instagrammable friendship grows deeper and more dangerous than either Alex or Henry could have imagined. Soon, Alex finds himself hurtling into a secret romance with a surprisingly unstuffy Henry that could derail the presidential campaign and upend two nations. He raises the question, can love save the world after all? Where do we find the courage and the power to be the people we are meant to be? And how can we learn to let our true colours shine through? I'm very excited to read this. So it's basically a queer romance book about a prince and the President of the United States. Like, that's literally two of the most powerful titles. Very, very excited to read this. Obviously don't know that much about it yet, but I'm very, very intrigued by this and I wanted to include it. So yeah, I typically in my adult life don't like reading book series. I want kind of a one-off thing to enjoy, but nonetheless, this was gifted to me by my friend Bridget. Bridget, if you're watching, hi. I feel like I'm shouting at all of my friends today. Holly Black's The Folk of the Air trilogy, and she said this is kind of about fairy. I'm not sure. I'm going to read you the synopsis of the first book. I'm not going to do it for all of them, but I'm going to do it for... Good God, getting this out of the boxes. Okay, I'm going to read. So the first book in the series is called The Cruel Prince. I don't know if you can see it. So on the back it says, of course I want to be like them. They're beautiful as blades forged in some divine fire, and Cardan is even more beautiful than the rest. I hate him so much that sometimes when I look at him, I can hardly breathe. One terrible morning, Jude and her sisters see their parents murdered in front of them. The fearsome assassin abducts all three girls and brings them to the world of Faerie. Mocked and tormented for being merely mortal, Jude soon realizes that to survive in the treacherous, dangerous world of the royal court, she needs to be as cunning and deceitful as the Fae themselves. But the stairway to power is fraught with shadows and betrayal, and looming over all is the arrogant and charismatic Prince Cardan. I'm very, very excited to get my teeth into this. This again seems a bit like, you know, the Peter Pan book, kind of dark fairy book. Very excited to read that, and I think this again is going to be very good for the darker seasons. When I read this book series, I'll make a full video about it. But yeah, so for now, if you want to check it out, you can look at it. But it comes in this gorgeous, gorgeous box with this gold foiling on the books, and I am a sucker for gold foiling. So that entails all the books that I am going to be reading for this year, and also the books I have been reading. So the best book that I've read this year so far, it's going to have to be a toss-up between Little Women and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn and Hugo. I do think Little Women for me wins. Ooh, I can literally imagine myself reading this until I'm 90. It's just that good. I love it. This is incredible because I have not read a book for years that I haven't been able to put down. Taylor Jenkins Reid completely encapsulated me in her world with her writing. I think it's so, so good. Highly recommend. So that's the two books that I would recommend so far of the books that I have read. And yeah, I did also like On the Other Side by Carrie Hope Fletcher a lot, but these two are just the best. Anyway, so now I want to know, what books would you recommend me to read? I definitely have a whole list of to be read as well that wasn't in this video. Curious to hear what you guys are reading at the moment, if you have any recommendations of what I should be reading next. The kind of books that I enjoy are kind of all over the place, really. I do like whimsical books and books about fairies and stuff, but also, yeah, a good romance. Yeah, let me know in the comments. It can be any genre. I'm open to reading anything. And please leave me a comment with your favourite book that you've read this year. And I hope to speak to you guys in my next video. And I will keep you updated how this reading project is going. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you liked it. And if you want me to make more book videos, what book would you want to see next? And do you want me to do a video on the Folk of the Air series? You can absolutely do that. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay magical, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Let's talk about books, baby. Let's talk about literature. Okay, that is not staying in the video. Bye.